So here it is, Commodore 64 that I picked up at a pawn shop, and it looks like it's a fully boxed unit. You can hear it kind of rattling around in there. I tried not to jiggle it around too much because things were just kind of loose inside of there. Now, some of these peripherals I actually got with the computer hall itself. So, and as you can see, it's just the Commodore all by itself, no cables, no nothing. That's exactly how I got it too. The 0 key is missing. Plunger's actually broken off there too. This is the same box that same box design anyway that I had on my original Commodore. So I was really excited to get this, even though it doesn't have anything with it. See the power light there, and the logo. Looks to be a newer style case. The cartridge port, that's a pretty common style case. It looks like it's a newer style case. And you look at the case, you'll actually see that it's there is the case pieces don't quite match together. It looks like it's a different color. It doesn't quite match up perfectly. You'll look at that RF port. Somebody actually carved that out a little bit so that it would fit. Almost like they put a new maybe a new top piece on it, but there's actually a couple of YouTube videos that I've seen that there are different style Commodore 64 bread bin cases, and of course it smells kind of like an old man's house, or almost like my grandmother's 1950s house. It was probably in a church, or is what I'm guessing. And used for something there, but it's hard to say. But it's been in storage quite a while and just kind of smells like that. But here's the VIC-20. The VIC-20 is there's a couple of price stickers on there that you can see that it was purchased for $97 at Kmart. So they bought it a little later. There's a serial number sticker right there. This one's actually packaged a little better. I was still very careful trying to turn it over and whatnot. A couple of those games I'm familiar with. There's a Jupiter Lander there. There's a couple of games that it did come with. Visible Solar System I have for the and Jupiter Lander for the Commodore 64, but it came with a couple of this actual haul came with a couple of these games. Vic Avengers is one of them, and you'll see that in a later video. Again, I have the printer, and I have the data set, and I'll show those in a separate video. Show you how it came. And it looks like it's a gold label VIC-20. I'm not entirely sure what era that, but this one actually came with some cables. Came with the adapter and RF switch, and that's the RF modulator. what I've usually used, I actually didn't use the those boxes. Once I figured out you can just get a an RF to RCA adapter and it works just fine. The I've got another 5-pin DIN plug, and that's audio and video out, and that might come in handy later. We'll set that aside for a minute. We got all kinds of documentation and labels for certain programs. And that's Protecto Enterprises. What I found interesting was that it matched the label colors of the VIC-20, which I thought was interesting. Now, what these are, some of the manuals that came with the actual cartridges, and these are just generic ones that actually covered a wide variety of cartridges. You see Jupiter Lander and whatnot. None of that came with the actual the Jupiter Lander didn't come with the VIC-20. There's a Cosmic Cruncher manual, it looks like. And somebody's handwritten notes. And see, this is why I think you look at it says Chapel right in the middle there. I think this VIC-20 and the Commodore 64 may have been stored in the basement of a church, and would be my guess. But it's a lot of it's very well kept up. So it says 6 game pack $59.99. It's really hard to make out the pencil on silver writing on there. This looks like it's a product manual. And you see it's the same kind of VIC-20 that I got with this box. But this looked almost to me like it was more of a product manual than an actual not an instruction book. It looks like something that might have been in the store. Like they were checking it out, they just kept the product manual with the VIC-20. Or maybe this came with the VIC-20. It's hard to say, really. And this is the same thing here. It's punched out for a 3-ring binder. My guess is they may have had a couple of different ones, a couple of VIC-20s, and just all the information ended up in this box. This particular pawn shop that I got it at actually said that he had a bunch of different Commodore stuff that somebody had sold him many years ago. He got rid of most of it on eBay, and what I got was pretty much left over. Didn't realize there was a thermal printer for the VIC-20. These are interesting because these are catalogs for different games and different peripherals and all kinds of things that you could have bought with the Commodore. The interesting thing is that my guess is the VIC-20 and that type of thing were bought somewhere else, and we actually we end up having so they apparently kept these catalogs, and at the time this book came out, it looks like all they were selling were VIC-20s, and that's about it. There's covers, VIC-20s, everything in here is related to the VIC-20. Game and miscellaneous software. The Data Equipment Supply Corp. And there's the order form. This is in California, I think. And there's Vicville. Firestorm Boulevard, Downey, California. So yeah, out of California, somewhere in California. And at the time that was printed, that's all they carried were the everything related to the VIC-20. My guess is it was a small computer store, and that's they just specialized in this one computer. Catalog number 3 is very similar, but see, you'll see it has the Commodore 64 and the VIC-20 on it. And there's it gets a little more sophisticated. So the Starfighter joystick. It's interesting. There's a Starfighter joystick there because I actually have one. That it didn't come with this haul, but I found it. I found a Starfighter joystick at the same store and picked it up because it was I needed a 9-pin joystick. And it was just in a box with a bunch of other joysticks from all different types of systems. So join our users software club. My guess is that these catalogs, it looks like they put out one a year. So maybe number 1 was 1981. Number 3 was 1983, because in 1983 that's when the Commodore would have been out. And it looks like there's still a lot of VIC-20 stuff here. And there's just a little bit of Commodore 64 stuff. VT was probably VIC-20. Commodore CS is probably Commodore 64. So there's a whole page of Commodore 64. But we just went through several pages of VIC-20 stuff. Well, it's from the same computer store, obviously, Data Equipment Supply Corp. You know, it's pretty common to see boxes on eBay, even boxes by themselves on eBay. But it's fascinating that that all that documentation was kept. And this VIC-20 is in really good shape. Keys feel pretty good. And maybe somebody can correct me on that, but I think that the gold label was a bit of an earlier model, and you'll notice how the power cord is interesting. It's not the DIN style plug, it's just a 2-pin header. Looks like there might be a little bit of warpage on the case, a little bit, not too bad though. But it looks like everything fits together nicely. It's not like different pieces were taken from different computers like the Commodore 64, and it's got that churchy smell too. So